2008 after she retired from the medical field in Portland, Oregon, where I grew up. Rockwood Water Board, huh? Yeah, I used to buy a lot of baseball cards at the Rockwood Fred Meyer. Remember where that is?
Oh, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you both for being here. I'd like to give each of you 1 minute to introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about why you believe you're a good choice in this election. Mr. Anderson.
Yes, hello. Travis Anderson. Many of you might not know me, but as he said, I moved here in 2000 to take an engineering position with Bullock Brothers Engineering, where I worked for till 2011, and at that time I acquired an engineering position as the civil engineer for Lake Mead National Recreation Area. That drive was a little long, so I was able to get a job back here in Mesquite and started to work for the city of Mesquite since 2013. One of the things that I really feel that I can add to the water district is give them a technical side of projects, documents, try to give them a little bit more of a help that way. Be really a great addition to the water board.
Good evening. My name is Sandra Raymaker, and I've been serving you for the last 6 years on the Virgin Valley Water District Board. If re-elected, I plan to continue to do my best to serve every individual and every business here equally. I believe everybody should have a right to ask questions and that they should be given the answers, especially when it's as important about our water. As most of you know, I am not related to any of the settlers here, although I do support their heritage and believe in their heritage. I am in this community because I love this community. I've been active in the community with different organizations. I believe that water is our biggest challenge. It's our biggest asset.
And time is up, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
All right, as we did with the city council candidates, we'll start with a question from Corey Clementson here at Wolf Creek. Currently, golf courses in Mesquite are among the highest ratepayers in the Virgin Valley Water District. As an example, Wolf Creek and Conestoga each pay annually hundreds and thousands of dollars to the Virgin Valley Water District. These fees are made up of both culinary water and irrigation water. With the huge amounts the golf courses are already paying annually, do you think it's fair to raise their rates for irrigation water? And if so, and you do get on the board, by how much do you think would be fair to raise the rates? Mr. Anderson.
That's a great question. One of the things that I really do believe is that the water, if elected to the water board, I would try to look at the community as a whole. Believe me, I do know where the golf course fits. The golf courses fit into this community. They are one of the key elements. They bring in tourism. They look at that. Now, to answer the question quite bluntly, yes, I do need to look at how the water rates affect all of those. I do feel that if I am elected, that we would want to look at those water rates a little closer. I think that talking with some of the other golf courses, there is room for that to increase. Now, those are definitely comments or concerns that we can address and meet, but I do believe it's not a high ceiling that we need to go at, but I do believe that there is a happy medium that can work for everyone.
I believe that the golf courses are the biggest industry here in Mesquite. As you will be told that for every dollar that is spent golfing, our economy receives $1.50. The cost of the water that we are leasing to the golf courses is non-potable water. It's water that you will never have any use for or be able to use. It's nasty water. But they spend the extra money to take care of that. They treat it. They have power structures and ways to get it here so that it keeps the golf courses in Mesquite. I understand and I believe that in a couple of years when these leases come up that we will do some negotiations. I believe they need to be very reasonable. And I'm hoping that we all come to the table with an open mind and not just think about all the revenue it could bring to the water district.
All right, thank you very much. And with that, we will turn it over to our panel.
Good evening, Travis. Thank you for being here. There's been a lot of concern in recent years by many about the conflicts of interest, or at least the appearance of conflicts of interest of elected officials in general, and in particular in the ranks of the Virgin Valley Water District, as well as its board. There's a history of Virgin Valley Water District board members and key employees with founding familiar names, buying millions of dollars of water rights to river water, which is likely to never be potable, and paying record prices for them to other families with founder names, because they're the ones that got the river water when they moved here, when their great-grandparents moved here. So there is a concern about conflicts of interest between private water owners and users and directors of the public water utility. Would you please outline for us any familial relationships that you have in the Virgin Valley with relatives who own or operate businesses, own any water rights, or otherwise might create the appearance of a conflict of interest for you if elected to the Virgin Valley Water District Board?
Certainly. Well, first of all, my wife works at the water district. She's a customer service representative. So with that being known, I would obviously realize that for any items that would address her or staff, I would have to recuse myself. As an engineer, I like to research things, and I've looked at that kind of situation just briefly, and that would be very minimal. Less than 10% of the agenda items that I looked at I would have to recuse myself. As far as any of the other relatives that have water rights, that's a great question, and I am related to Craig Anderson, Kent Anderson, Dave Anderson. I honestly don't know what their water rights are. My relation to them is their grandfather and my grandfather, my grandfather were brothers. So it's a way distant relative situation, but I do not believe that would hinder me at all on making sure I'm okay with the whole water district community.
Hi, Senior. If you are re-elected, what would Virgin Valley Water do to lessen their expenses to keep from increasing water rates to their customers?
I don't think that the Virgin Valley Water District will ever be able to decrease. And I think that eventually we will even have what you might consider maybe a 1% built-in raise to rates every year so that people can adjust to them. We have established a debt reduction fee that is taking care of the majority of our debt ratio for all of our bonds, which was a large percentage of what our income was to begin with. And we did raise rates, and we have settled some other issues that were going on so that we have some income. But our main issue right now is to maintain our infrastructure and to use the money we have and try to keep growing and giving you the best service we can.
Mr. Anderson, as the city tries to grow and develop economically, how do we best allocate our water resources for those prospective businesses?
Well, I think the water district actually has a good plan as far as, well, it's the same. We, as a community as a whole, we try to get not only residents, but development that can help these residents stay here. So as far as I believe that the water district has an ample supply of water to meet the needs of the residents. Currently, right now, they're doing a master plan update to identify the areas where they can grow, they can continue to increase their infrastructure needs. I do believe that in the future, that being able to look at the aquifer, the basin, is a good idea. I think that we have different needs right now that we can look at. But to try to create more economic growth, I don't know if there's anything that we can really do to try to get people here more than what we're already doing. The only information that I have would be what I have gotten from the water district meetings, that they are looking at that. I have had discussions with Kevin Brown as the city engineer. One of the good things that I really believe helps me to fill in this is the ability to be able to work as part of the city and the water district. I feel that would be a super advantage for the water district as we work together. But as far as the water tank issue, I don't know a lot of details other than it will help to increase the pressures and to help the water system in the Sun City dramatically. When I worked for Bullock Brothers, one of the things, another special thing that I have is I was able to work on the water distribution model when we were looking at that. So I have a definite knowledge of the water system, not only in Sun City, but also in the city of Mesquite. So to answer your question, the water tank issue that I know about will help the citizens of Sun City to increase the water pressure and give you another avenue so that it's not just a single line system.
Ms. Raymaker, I don't think it's much of a secret that there's sometimes a difference of opinion on the water board, to put it lightly. So how do you work with a group that doesn't always see eye to eye to get stuff done?
Well, I'll admit there's times when I think we're a very dysfunctional board. And I think our personal interests get involved where they don't need to be. I know I try to stay on track and try to remember why I'm there and that the issues that we're addressing are for everybody, not for somebody who doesn't agree or disagree, that we need to reach a happy medium. We don't need to agree. We can agree to disagree as long as we come out with a valid direction that's going to service everybody. It's not easy, but I go and I try very hard to be prepared. I try to be knowledgeable. I try to use my experience and what I see happening and stay focused on those issues as much as possible.
Travis, in the last, Cliven Bundy is taking water from several streams feeding basins 222 and 223 to water his illegal grazing cattle. These basins are under VVWD jurisdiction, and NRS 533-503 says that the state engineer shall not issue a permit unless the applicant is legally entitled to place the livestock on the lands for which the permit is sought. If elected, will you support the VVWD asking the state engineer to enforce this statute?
You know what? That's a great question, and honestly, I don't have a great answer. One of the things I have learned as an engineer going through college, and that is that a lot of the time you may not know the answer right away, but you can do some serious research, and that's what I'm very good at. One of the things, so to be honest with you, I'd like to research that a little bit more, see exactly. I have never been asked that question, never even thought of that question before. So one of the things that I would like to let everybody know, you're right, is I don't claim to be the smartest person in the room. I don't claim to know all of the answers. But one thing I do know is I can research something, and I can find a good answer that will help all of the water district. Now, so I hate to be like that, but I honestly do not have a good answer for you other than I can research that and then give you an answer afterward.
Sandra, with water being a very important issue here in Mesquite, has the Virgin Valley Water District ever considered regulating irrigation times for customers here?
To my knowledge, I don't think we've ever tried to regulate the irrigation time. We have X amount of irrigation shares, which are mostly used for the golf courses and for the farmers. Once that water is not available, I mean, we have X amount, they keep track of how much is used, but we have never tried just regulating when they can and can't use it. I think that would be probably very detrimental, especially to a golf course, because they need to water at all, be able to water whenever, and if you've had a summer like we've just had, they need to be able to have as much of that water when they need it, if it's available.
I probably should have said recommend, not regulate, actually. Used the wrong word there. But sometimes, you know that in Las Vegas there's days that you can water and when you can wash your car, and so I was just curious to see, because it is a very special thing that we have, the water, we want to keep it as safe and keep it with us for as long as possible.
If I may, I think that has to do more with our potable water instead of our irrigation water. And with that in mind, I think we all need to conserve. Some people think we're conserving by raising your rates, and I don't consider that conservation. I think all landscaping should be regulated, should be watered on certain days, during certain hours, and when they're not, then you need to have somebody come knock on your door and tell you to turn it off. We only have so much water. So I think it's important for everybody to think about conserving the water.
Mr. Anderson, as a potential newcomer to the board, are there any decisions that the current board has made recently that you disagree with or would have done differently?
There are some of the issues that I might have wanted to have a little bit more say on. Some of the new standard specifications and rules that go along with there. Case in point, one of the stipulations they have is to add more bedding sand to your pipe installation. Things like that I have a unique knowledge about, I feel that I can really help the water district to make a good thing. So there are things that I see that can be worked on, but there is nothing blatant. I really want to say that the current board and staff, I think, is doing a good job in making not amends, but working on making some of the mistakes the past board and past managers made before, and I think they're moving in the right direction. But I really do believe that I can help to increase that and to help that continue to grow and to add to that.
Sandra, this is a question I asked a city council candidate. In the last year, there was proposed lease of some public lands for fracking in central Utah and Nevada, which would have eventually posed a danger to the basins from which we get our drinking water. Luckily, those lease auctions were eventually canceled, but they'll come up again. Are you in favor of fracking in Nevada? Why or why not? And under what circumstances?
I am definitely not for fracking. Anything that endangers our water supply, I am completely and totally against. I can't see myself voting for that at any given time. Our water, and they said on these vaults, we need to pay attention to those things. And yeah, these things will come up again where they're wanting to do something. And it's important for the staff and for us to keep track of when those issues come about so that we can respond to them and show the fact that we do not want that to happen here in our district.
Travis, in projecting future increases, what can you do for businesses here in Mesquite to give them ample time to incorporate any new increases into their budgets?
One of the things I think they can really do is, with one of the issues they had lately is talking about, I just had a moment there, where to get the public input more into these, as far as when you're looking at the rate increases, I felt that they did a really good job on trying to show to the business owners, this is what we're looking at. The engineers are preparing these. The materials are being out there. For example, there was talk of out in Bunkerville a couple years ago in 2013. They were removing the secondary water system, which was basically when the water district started, it was to prepare a secondary conservation effort. Well, it turned out that that was very detrimental to the water district because they were having to put culinary water into that system. The water district did studies. They showed that that was not cost productive for the whole water district. And they actually did the study and pulled that water from Bunkerville. It was a very transparent process. They had meetings, they went through. I think that can happen with any of those.
Ms. Raymaker, kind of a similar question to what I asked Mr. Anderson earlier. As someone who's sat on the water board for a while now, and as you see the city make efforts to grow economically and expand as far as the businesses that are in the city, how does the water board, what's the most efficient way that the water board can allocate those resources for these new businesses?
We have X amount of water. We have X amount of shares. We have about half of them right now that people are actually using. We have probably another quarter that are out there not being used that we're trying to get back through one of the recent things that went through legislature. We can't really control because the city, people come in, they go to the city, they apply for a license, they apply for business, they bring the plans to us. As long as they meet the plans, we can't refuse them. They have to meet the standards. They're given a will serve letter, and I don't think there's any way that we can actually change that. We need to be conscientious in the city as well. We want businesses, but we need to know exactly how much water there is. And I think that comes back again to having the study of the 222 basins so we know how much water we really have.
Great. Travis? I sometimes get confused when I'm out at the Virgin Valley Water District Board meetings when they're talking about, gee, we can get this much more money if we send our water down to Las Vegas because they pay more for it. That doesn't seem to jive with my thought about what a service district is. So I guess my question is, do you think the primary job of the Virgin Valley Water District is to provide water to the people and businesses within its service district? Or do you support sending water that is owned by the Virgin Valley Water District out of the valley for use by others? In other words, do you think that the charter of the water district is support the needs of water within the Virgin Valley as a water district? Or is instead their job to maximize the money they can make from the use of their assets even if those uses are outside of the district?
Good question. I believe that it's twofold. I think that you can look at it both ways. The water district has a responsibility to provide quality water to its constituents, both Bunkerville and Mesquite. Part of that, you have to have money to operate that system. So when you look at just being able to closed mind situation of, I'm only going to provide that water to these folks at this rate, in the winter time, you have a lot of irrigation shares that are going down river. Why not be able to sell those to Southern Nevada Water Authority at a higher rate to maximize what you can bring back to the citizens of Mesquite and Bunkerville? So I believe it's not just a simple, easy answer of it's this or that. I think you have to look at it both ways and show what you can maximize the effect for everybody.
Just a quick follow-up. Doesn't that turn the water district into something other than a water district whose job it is to provide water? If they're buying assets to maximize for profit by selling them to others, that sounds more like a financial institution of some type.
No, not at all. If they're able to maximize that water that they already have, and the people of Mesquite are not able to use that in the wintertime, why wouldn't you sell that down there for those folks? It just makes good financial sense. I guess you could look at it as a financial institution, but if you're able to have an asset that is not being used by those folks in the wintertime, I think you'd be dumb not to.
Sandra, similar to the question that was asked to Travis, what is your position on selling or leasing water to the Southern Nevada Authority?
I believe that the water we have, we need to keep here in the valley. I think that it was set up originally when we became a water district that we were to provide water for the valley. I believe that if we take those shares and they get leased down, I know we have some that we lease down there. Even when we purchased those shares, there was an agreement they were already being leased to SNWA. But my problem is yeah, we can make a lot of money. And yeah, people say, well, you're always worried about infrastructure. Well, that's one of the reasons we raised your rates. I believe that once the water's gone, we won't ever get it back. I know they think that this is a good thing, that we can do a variety of things with it, but you can't. And once it's gone, it's gone. I mean, if you look at the golf courses and we talk about using city water that they've recycled and what have you, there isn't enough for the golf courses to do it year round. There isn't enough for any of the businesses to do it year round. So I think the water needs to stay here.
Mr. Anderson, you said that you feel there's an ample supply of water here already. You said that you don't feel at this moment there's a study that needs to be done for Basin 222. So it doesn't appear that you share any concerns that some people in the West might have about, a drought in the area at all. Can you just clarify your stance on that?
Oh no, I definitely believe that there's a drought here. Being the civil engineer for Lake Mead, I saw firsthand. One of the aspects I worked with Lake Mead was extending the launch ramps. I saw how Overton Beach lost their marina there because of the drought conditions. I definitely believe in a drought situation. However, the best information that we have right now is showing that we have an ample supply. Now, that being said, I do believe that a study would be in order, but I do believe that there's things that we need to attack first prior to that situation. Looking at the infrastructure, some of these other needs, I think that those need to be addressed, and then we look at it. One of the other things about doing the basin study is it's not just Mesquite that's looking at Basin 222. Arizona, you can go across the state line and you can drill into Basin 222. So if the water district is the only source of revenue going into that, we need to have some of these other people paying on that too, and I don't see anybody stepping up right now.
Sandra, Mesquite is a city whose future is totally dependent on the availability of water. Currently, water supply is managed by the Virgin Valley Water District, which serves the Bunkerville area as well as the city of Mesquite. The board of the district is currently made up of 2 board representatives elected from Bunkerville and 3 board representatives elected by Mesquite citizens. Even though Bunkerville accounts for only about 5% of the water users and revenues of the Virgin Valley District. I'll go off that part. Effectively, Bunkerville has enormously outsized control over the water policies and future of Mesquite. Do you think it is right that Bunkerville has such outsized representation on our water, 40% of the board seats by 5% of the users? And would you support legislation or other action to try and remedy this imbalance?
I believe when you go back and you read the legislative act for our water district, when the 2 came together, all the assets, all the bills, everything became Virgin Valley Water District. At that same point, there was 2 people appointed for them and 3 for Mesquite. Since then, Mesquite has now got almost 19,000 people. Bunkerville has maybe 1,000, maybe a little bit more than that. So Mesquite is suffering and spending all the money that the largest percent of the money that is spent on your infrastructure and providing you with water, delivery, and the cost is Mesquite. So why shouldn't Mesquite have a little larger say in what's going on? I believe that legislature should make a change, and that I would like to see 4 people representing Mesquite and 1 from Bunkerville. They are important. They should have a right to say something. But I think because we're the largest, all of you are paying the cost of everything, that it should be changed.
Travis, why should the people of Mesquite give you their vote instead of the incumbent?
Very good question. And here's the long and short of it, I believe, that I've lived here since 2000. I have 4 kids ranging from age 20 to 9. I've lived here through the downturn of the economy. I've been through the thick and the thin, and I am fully invested in this community. Could have left when the downturn happened, but I didn't. My mom and dad used to ask me, so do you see yourself in Mesquite? And I said, yes, this is home to me now. Mesquite is my home. I'm fully committed. I do believe that I keep coming back to this, but I do believe I have a skill set that would greatly increase the board intelligence. I don't mean to say anything bad, but I do believe that I can help out dramatically. And I feel that it will only help the water board in the future, looking at future needs and the current needs right now.
Ms. Raymaker, are there any concerns that you have about the amount of water that is available to the city of Mesquite?
I do have concerns because I honestly believe that the studies that were done on Basin 222, the majority of them were in 1969. We have been in a drought situation. We don't know how much water is really there. I know that if right now, with the amount of shares that we have leased, and will serves that people have, take about half of that amount. I believe we have a quarter of amount out there that we're trying to get back, or at least have developers pay a fee for it so that the water isn't just sitting there and not being utilized. I think that just say for instance, if Pulte was to now suddenly develop and come in and pay all their fees for all the Ordinance 2 fees to be able to have all their projects done out there, we would be out of water. So those are concerns to me that we really need to know how much we have, and I think the city needs to know. And I'd like to see the city get involved with us doing that study so that we all know where we're going and what's going to happen.
That concludes our Virgin Valley Water District Forum. Mr. Anderson, Ms. Raymaker, thank you so much for being here. A round of applause, please.